Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the For the Doers podcast. I am Seda, your host. I am here today for another fun conversation with my wonderful friends, Janis Sadoyama. There she is. And Julia Nettles Bay. Hello, Julia. So welcome back. Thank you to everybody who has been watching, liking, and subscribing. And don't forget to comment. I would love to hear your comments on some of these subjects that we're talking about, because it is all about us and you. These great conversations that we're having about navigating life as a doer, the people who really want to live their authentic life and achieve their goals and go beyond and feel fulfilled. That's why we're here. So today, keeping on, and we'll pretty much always keep on this theme of knowing yourself in order to live that great fulfilled life that you want, because I know that I have, at the point where I am in my life, realized that I have to know who I am, how I fit in, wherever it is that I want to be, whichever environment. I am part of making that happen, just like you are, just like these fine ladies here are also. So Julia had a great idea on doing an exercise about your values. Values are another part of who you are. And again, I think, for those who are still learning about how knowing your values can impact your life, I just think that it's so important to know your values, because again, then you do know where you belong. And these are the things that help you kind of figure it out, right? Would you say that? It just helps you make decisions about your own life, because it's coming from you. It's not something that your parents made up or your friends, which is a lot of what we go with in life, Well, my parents wanted me to be a real estate agent, so here I am. But maybe that's not you. So I want for the lovely Julia to let us know what brought about this exercise for her and why she wanted to do it, etc. Take it away, Julia.
All righty. Well, I am, as the two of you know, a big fan of Brenee Brown. And I was listening to one of her podcasts, and it was, I want to say it was at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, in terms of the data, the timing of her podcast. And what she does with her team is she takes them through this values exercise, because she talked about resolutions, and like the two of you, she's not feeling the resolutions, but what she does like to do is go through this exercise to determine what are our values, and have they changed, because they can. What's important to you today might be different from what was important to you at 15 or at 65 or what have you. So she took her team through this exercise, and on the podcast, it was her and her sister who went through the exercise together, and it was fun. And she works with her sister, and I just thought that that brought them together in terms of getting to know one another and getting to know themselves, and then pointing out or validating, oh, that is so you, or what have you. And I thought to myself, oh, I need to do this, and I need to do this with my peeps. And I had done a version of this with my team, and I think it's a very good exercise to filter life through. If you're trying to figure out decisions and determining which path to take, or if you feel like you're lost and you're off the beaten path, if you know what your values are, then you can put it through that filter and say to yourself, does this align with my values? And if it doesn't, then yeah, this probably is not the path that I should be taking.
Love.
And one of the key things that I thought was interesting from the conversation that Brenee had with her sister was, she's a consultant for corporations, and they bring her in to talk to their leadership and, get them to be more cohesive or whatever the issue is or challenge that they have brought her in for. And so inevitably she'll see a wall with her values on it, and she'll say to someone, so what does that really mean? What does that look like? And someone might say, oh, dude, it's just a party line. I don't know. It's just what our values are. If you can't speak to it and how what behaviors you actually display in your life that validates this value, then it's probably not your value. It's in the eyes of a corporation, it's just lip service. It looked nice on a sheet of paper, but it's really not your value. And same could be said for individuals. So what the ladies and I did was we took a page out of Brenee's book, and she has this list of values, and it's a huge list of values, and essentially you pick 15 or 20, and then you dwindle it down to 2. And it's kind of hard to do in terms of, I went through the list and I thought to myself, oh yeah, but that's me and that's me and so is that, and I kind of identify with this, that, or the other. But what you then realize is that things then fall under one another. One can be an umbrella for several. So my 2 values, and I heard Janis in my head when I was selecting one of them is achievement, because I am very goal oriented, to the point where yesterday I was thinking about what to do next. Should I meditate? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I'm like, well, I have to do it on my Peloton app so that I get it on I get credit.
Yes.
And, because, that type of crap. Or I just finished a series of virtual yoga classes, not on my Peloton app. And it's an hour for the past 7 Sundays. And I'm like, hello, I'm not getting credit for that. Says I haven't done anything, but I have. I've done an hour. I've done twice as much as I need to. So that's when I was like, yeah, you picked the right value right there, sister. That is your thing.
Right.
Can I just say that first of all, I love that you shared that. Second of all, I have literally thought about running a Peloton class while I'm in an actual spin class so I can get credit for it. Because I'll take an hour spin class, and that's 2 Peloton classes. And I'm like, I'd get credit for an hour.
Can't you just, are you doing this on an Apple Watch? Can't you just turn it on while you're doing that on your Apple thing?
I haven't figured out how to do that. So I think to Peloton, but if I'm out walking and I'm just walking and my watch notices, hey, I think you're out walking. You want to walk? I'm like, cool. But I don't know how to get it to come up and say, oh, I think you're doing yoga.
You can tell it to do that.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I will help you with that. Girl, Seda, well, no, I actually don't like Siri because I don't like her busting into my life when I don't need her. But speaking of achievement, I was like, I will be getting my credit for whatever it is I do. And I know how to
True.
turn that thing on.
Uh-huh. So that's when that little person inside of me is like, Julia, you need to
Mhm.
let this go because you know what you achieved.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you know what you achieved. You don't need a little app, but I do. So it's, yeah. So that I can think of many examples that go down that path that speak volumes about why achievement is, or that illustrate how achievement is so important. But the question then began, why? Why is it so important? And it dawned on me yesterday while listening to yet another podcast, not of Brenee Brown, but about how we as people need to rest and take a break, and how important it is, and why some of us feel guilty when we do. It's because we don't have that example. And we are afraid to be called out as being lazy, or not capable, or incompetent, or what have you. So we're always going because that's all we know how to do, because that was the example that our parents set for us, because they worked, and in some households parents worked several jobs, but they certainly they did, if they were parents and working outside the home. I mean, that's two jobs right there, let alone if they had more than one job outside the home. So there's so much that goes into that. And taking it a step further, for those who were enslaved and providing free labor, they were always going, and not making any money. They were, so it's, and then once that was over, they continued to have that same work ethic, because they were now seeing the fruits of their labor, because now they were actually earning.
Ooh, I never even thought about that, Julia.
So yeah, that's, and I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, that's nail in the head right there. That is exactly why well, I do what I do, and why it hurts me to my core when someone thinks that I am not reaching the level that I should be reaching, because it's like, oh my God, that's no, I am an overachiever. I cannot as being not achieving. That's not okay. That's not my heritage. That's not how I was raised. So it is an affront to me not to be an achiever. So a lot of baggage in that one value. And then the second one was, or is, authentic. And I think that for me, it is, I toyed with that in like honesty or transparency or sincerity, but at the end of the day, it's being authentic. And everything falls underneath that umbrella, because I really value and gravitate towards people who are authentic, because I am. What you see is what you get, and I don't do face value. It's pretty rare that I wear a lot of makeup. Why? Because at a very early age, I was like, no, I want people to see me for who I am, scars and all. And I want people to like me for who I am. And those who aren't, it was a really hard lesson to learn, because as a child, I was bullied and what have you. For superficial reasons. But at least at that standpoint, I knew what time of day it was with that particular individual or individuals. So I am authentic in myself and knowing who I am and what I bring to the table. And I just love it if everyone else were, as opposed to not being that way. But again, I can only control what I bring to the table.
Yep. Yep. I love, wow, that's deep.
Yeah, you know, I have my moments.
And you're so deadpan.
I get that from my mom.
I love it. I love that. I love how you came to those things, but you came to both of those values authentically, because it's almost like I just can't help who I am. Like, this is who I am, like it or lump it, which is just, yeah, we wish everybody was like that. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world.
No.
Or in an echo chamber, as we were speaking of before we started here, which is probably what makes everything so exciting in life, and how we learn is just from not being in an echo chamber and being around different people with different values. That also helps us know ourselves, because look, some of those teachers are teachers because we know what not to do. And then, of course, there is Janis Sadoyama.
So I love Julia's answers too, because it's almost like, yeah, they're your values, but they're also values that you seek out in people, or, those you surround yourself with. Because I agree. Like, I think it's super important, because I feel like if you don't, it'll dilute a little bit of your values.
Yes.
It feels like a little bit of a compromise. And it's not to say, like, of course you're going to come across people that don't really align with you on a daily basis, like unless you're in a bubble by yourself. But that being said, I think it's super cool to kind of take a pause and be like, oh, well, what do I bring to the table? What do I expect to? And this one, it was definitely an exercise of self-inflection, which I feel like, when you say that it can change and they kind of grow and develop through the years, it's huge. Like, I think it's such a fun thing to come back to and kind of reevaluate from time to time. But my two values are curiosity and authenticity. Authenticity. I was like, yeah, that's the girl, that's the club. I feel like it's a word that's kind of thrown around a lot these days and not really practiced as much. It's like a buzzword, like people are like, oh, I just want to be authentic. And it's like, But I think authentic too is being able to receive like authentic feedback or having authentic conversations. So I think it's a double, there's like two sides to it also, like the giving part and then the receiving part of it. I love curiosity. Curiosity is definitely one of, and it was like, I had a lot. I was like curiosity, awareness, and like determination. Cause I hold those things really like, it's personal, but I think it all starts from curiosity. Like, any sort of, like improvement or self-development, I always feel like starts from a place of curiosity. It's like, well, what if things can be a little bit better? Or what if like I can learn this new thing? What if I make new friends? What if I broaden my horizon to, conversations and people? Like, what does that look like? So curiosity is definitely a big one.
What do you mean by my horizon?
Like, I think, and like in the exercise, right, it says, what are one or two slippery behaviors that are outside your value? So in curiosity, it's like the slippery slope or the place of comfort is just keep like the stagnation, kind of doing what you're used to and it's comfortable. So when it comes to like broadening horizons, it's like, oh, like somebody approaches a topic or a situation that I haven't considered, or that's not my norm, or that's different from like my viewpoint. I think that's so cool to still be open to that, because what I
Yeah.
don't want to ever happen is that you're turned off by listening to a different perspective or a different story or a different way of living. Because to each his own, but I feel like having a bigger, rounder, you know, story and dialogue with things, it helps, it like enriches your own.
Yeah.
Because you can also take bits and pieces from like experiences and people and things like that. So I guess like broadening horizons is just kind of being able to look at things from different perspectives and, appreciate it from that sense. Because
Yeah.
everybody has different walks of life. And I feel like we have so much to learn from other people and other people's experiences. And I think curiosity was a big one. Like, I feel like it's 75% curiosity, 25% authenticity.
Oh, wow. I
'Cause I
see
love
that
it. I
about
love the
you.
curiosity.
Totally.
But isn't that what it is? Like, where, see, and this is that moment where we're like, yes, I see that, because Janis is so good at looking at people and bringing out the things that they don't even see in themselves, the positive things, that's true constructive. And it's not even criticism. It's just like the curiosity that comes in with like seeing other people for who they are, not what you want them to be, which I live for that. Like, I look for people who have that outlook, maybe subconsciously, because, you want to have some type of dialogue and you want, to be open. And I think that you are like that. You're absolutely right on that, because you are so curious, which is what makes you so good at what you do.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I think the authenticity part too, where it's like, don't BS a BSer. Because I'm like, yeah, it's really easy for like trust. Like, I get it. Like, I've heard like, okay, like that's great to say things. But I think also like being able to walk the walk and, doing what you're saying you're going to do, or, being true to who you are. And it's the older I get and the more, friendships and relationships that I have, it's fewer and far between the authentic value, like the authentic aspect is there. So it's like when I see it and it's like I recognize it, and it's so cool though, because those are also like the relationships that have stood the test of time. Because you could be your authentic self. You're not, both sides, like you're not worried about, oh, they're gonna think this about me, or somebody's gonna think that about me. It's just, no, this is like Julia said, like, this is you, what I see, what you see is what you get. Like, take it or leave it, and it's okay either way.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to leave it, bye.
But I think that also, when I think about how to approach things with you in particular, Janis, I'm very mindful of, I am concerned about your point of view, and what your perception will be. Because I value that relationship, but I also know that you are going to reciprocate in that that authentic self will come back to me and say, no, Julia, I really think XYZ. And whether or not I want to hear it or not, I think that you will tell me the truth, good, bad, and different. If I'm feeding you, and I might not be feeding you BS, it just might be, I am resistant to something, and I'm going to say it out loud to you, and you're going to say back to me, yeah, I don't think that's the case, but XYZ. And I think one has to be, or it's good for one to be open to that, because as they say, like attracts like as well as opposites. But there's a reason for that, because I think that while we are the three of us, I haven't heard your values, but I have a feeling you're authentic in there as well, Miss Ada. But I think that we are all very different. But I think at the we still value, that is a core value in all of us, even though we may not come at something in the same way, shape, or form. And that's a beautiful thing, because then we can grow. This is where your curiosity comes in, because I think that it's right on the money. You are definitely thirsty for learning, and you are always into learning something new or different, regardless of, I would think you could sit down with your enemy and sit down and have a candid conversation about opposing views, and it not become violent or nasty or what have you, because you would want to hear where they're coming from. You would be curious about where they're coming from.
Yeah,
I think you could do that.
I love that.
That's a big deal.
I'm not a violent person, so yes, I could 1000%. I love that, but I also think, to that point, it's there's something. It's like an argumentative, like bubble inside of me that I really do love debating or having those really like challenging conversations. But like, even if it were an opposing view, I feel like in order to strengthen your argument, you have to listen to the other side. There's no way you can't, because then it's just, turning a blind ear to something is not as effective. It's like, okay, let's talk about that, and like, let me dispute that.
I love that.
My partner's very much like that too. So it's that much more impactful. And that's actually interesting enough, which is a completely side topic, but it's actually helped me communicate better with my dad, because it's no longer like emotionally fueled, but it's a conversation of like, all right, we can talk about this. We can be calm, cool. Like we may be on opposite sides of the argument, but being able to pause and be like, okay, like, let's take the emotion out of it and let's talk about the facts, or let's talk about, what it is that we're really talking about here. And I think it's such an effective way of communicating. I think it's the goodness that comes from that. I mean, both of you, especially like from leadership standpoints, I'm sure like having this in your toolbox is like beyond.
I don't know that I've finessed it to your level yet, because I am passionate is the word for it. When I feel strongly about something, it does come off as passion. I'm pretty zen at the moment, but if I feel strongly about something, and Tiago can tell you.
Of course he can, better than anybody.
Right. I mean, I am a whole nother emotional being. But I don't, it takes work. It really does, to sit back and go, oh, okay, alrighty, let's hear your side. Without my really sitting there and listening, without coming up with, how am I going to dispute whatever's coming out of your mouth? Because I'm certainly guilty of that. Preparing.
We all are. That's the inner dialogue too, always.
Yeah, that's always the inner dialogue. How am I going to prove them wrong?
I know. I'm like, oh. I mean, fun's not the right word, but sometimes, those conversations are a lot of fun. Okay, Seda, tell us yours.
All right, okay. I'll do mine quickly. So of course, authenticity.
Was it 1 or 2?
That's my number 1. That's my number one. And it's because, and I'm sure it's changed. It's been honesty in the past and things like that. But I feel like authenticity, for very specific reasons, because as I have said, I'm always on that road to self, just being knowledgeable about myself, what I want in life, why I'm doing things, all of that. I think that all comes back to authenticity, and that comes back to me specifically when dealing with, or actually having just worked through depression and knowing the whys and how you got there. When you have, these huge moments and, breakdowns and things like that, you have to figure out what got you there. And in figuring that out for myself, and that's where authenticity came in, was because I didn't feel like I was being authentic. And I was still playing some roles that I was, or even thought I was expected to play. That goes back to the stories we tell ourselves. And I realized, that I was, in a sense, betraying myself because I wasn't really making decisions with my values in mind. So that's where I came to that authenticity, is that, I very consciously have to look at my values and know that I'm not selling myself short. And I know I've said that before, that that's one of my things, is like always selling myself short. And that's where that authenticity comes in, in being self-referral. I'll take criticism and all of that, but bottom line is, how do I feel about that criticism? And does that person even know what they're talking about? Because even when someone gives you constructive criticism in a positive way, they're still not seeing the whole story that you're seeing in your head. And the only way positive change comes is when you say, I want to change this. I want to go in this direction. People can tell you whatever they want, but it has to come from you. It's just like when we are always talking about being fulfilled and living authentically, it's you living the way you want to, the way you have told yourself, this is what makes me happy. Not what someone else said, even if they have your best in mind, it's you. And that's, to me, what authenticity is. When someone is authentic, because it's just like, it's an aura that comes across from people. And this is what I have always said to my teams: you tell people how they're going to treat you. You tell them with how you show up. You're telling the world how you want to be treated. And I gravitate to a lot of people who are authentic, including people like my husband, who's like way too authentic and too honest, and I don't want to hear it half the time. And when we say we choose, we say that, but we attract those people. I have always, at least in my adult life, attracted people who are the ones that rub people the wrong way because they're too honest or, are too passionate. Like, I always have those people in my life because I am one of those people. I want to know where I stand all the time. I don't want to not know. I don't want people to blow smoke, to me. I want to know where I stand, and I want people who deal with me to know where they stand. And I think, again, you open your mouth, whether a person's authentic or not. I don't care how old they are, how young they are. It all comes from your actions, of course, because people can say whatever they want. It's the actions. But I think that that's why I chose authenticity, because again, it's like, don't betray yourself. live your life, get your life the way you want it. And that brings me to my second one, which is self-expression. Jazz hands. You know, and I've done this exercise or a similar exercise before, and self-expression wasn't one of my choices, but it is now. But I think it's because of all the work that I've done that I feel like I can now. You know, because I'm so sure of who I am, I can express myself and feel like I'm being authentic in the way that I'm expressing myself. Like what we're doing here. So that's my story. But no, just to finish up on that. But yeah, authenticity brought me to self-expression. You know, a lot of the work, especially that I did with Janis in those early days and doing the Ikigai exercises, it's like, you know, all of these things, but you have to just, for yourself, create that elevator pitch, you know, on who you are, what value you bring, so that you're always ready because you know who you are. That, and to me, that's the self-expression. You know, I like, professionally, I want to do what I am, you know, literally, I want to do what I am with my life, and I want to write that narrative. And that came from doing that work and knowing who I am, period. So thank you,
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point with a heart. Some sparkles.
But Julia called it that it would be authenticity would be
Of course.
like the common thread.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I like that.
I like it too, but I think we're all going through very similar things in our own way. You know, like, it's, I don't remember which one of you said it. It's like, we're all going to get to where we want to get to in our own way. I can tell you all day, Julia can, Janis can, like how they became successful at what they do, but everybody has to walk their own path. That's why I think authenticity is so important. That's why we have that thread. And I think that that's how you can build trust, real trust. Because I know where you're coming from. You know, I can trust where you're coming from. That's a better way of putting it.
I love
What do you
that.
want to say, Janis?
Oh, that I'm like trying to think where it would live, but I want to take the list of values that we kind of selected from. Maybe I can tack it on to like the end of this video, but it'd be so interesting to see what people's like top 2 values are, because it was like Julia said, like, you start with this, you start with like 10, and then you whittle it down and it's 2.
Yes.
So I think it would be super cool for people to, you know, share their values too.
Absolutely. I love that. I mean, it's just helping others do that work for themselves, frankly, and it changes.
It does. And it helps. The reason why it was done in the workplace is, if you know someone's values in terms of what's important to them, then you can relate to them on their level. What speaks to them.
Yes, I love that.
If you're trying to motivate someone who is not, you know, financially motivated, then, and you're constantly trying to say, but you can make X, Y, Z. And you're like, they're like, yeah, but I'm not motivated by money. So you don't know me. That is not of importance to me. So it so helps in terms of trying to relate with others.
Love that. That is so true.
Yeah. And I think too, like, to that point, it's, for me, it gets really the challenge of like, oh, what motivates me doesn't motivate you too. So I think being able to take a step back and, you know, hearing other people's like list of values and things like that they prioritize, that's, I think all in all, it helps you kind of like sharpen your communication skills also,
Mhm.
because not everybody's going to receive the exact same message, but being
Mhm.
able to kind of adjust based on audience, like that's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Absolutely. And most people cannot do that. You know, it's, and this also comes from just becoming present,
Mhm. Mhm.
because we all get caught up, all of us get caught up in our own thing. And, you know, sometimes people might misinterpret because you are in your own thing and you're communicating in a way that maybe doesn't connect with other people. I mean, that's just reality. So if you can get to that next level and be so much more, have a more effective message by making it so that, and that's hard, like really changing a message for a lot of different type of people. Like that's really hard. I always strive for that, but I don't always do it.
Mm.
But I think it's work. It's just the work you have to do.
Mhm.
It's just part of life. You know, the work you do will get you to where you want to get to eventually. But it's never, you know, magic wand. You know, I love magic wand. I wish I had one, but I do say that in interviews, you know, when I'm interviewing someone, like magic wand. If you could have this, what would it be? I love this conversation. This is so good. Well, I hope that we have brought you something that makes you think about how you express yourself and make decisions in your life. Please give us some feedback if you have any feedback, if you've done this exercise. And yes, to what Janis says, let's put up the list, right? Let's put up the list and see if any of our friends want to participate. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. This has been so much fun. My cheeks hurt from laughing. I appreciate you. Do not forget to like and subscribe. We're here every Monday. Sometimes these ladies are here, sometimes they aren't, but when they are, of course, then my cheeks are going to hurt from laughing because we have so much fun. Thank you so much. Please join in. We'll be back next week. Like and subscribe. Don't forget. Thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful and productive week. Have an excellent Monday. Bye.